So in the year of 2022 in sports, at least the games that I've gone to, I've experienced two different types of weird situations, which is, to put it lightly, in a mixture of bad words. I've witnessed the Yankees get no hit. I've also witnessed my football team tie with a rival for the first time in 25 years, I think is right. And it's funny. Well, the last team they tied against was the Washington Redskins. But welcome back, everybody, to the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate you all coming back. Hopefully, this doesn't cut out this time while I'm recording, because the first time around, I was rambling on for like 20, 30 minutes, and it says encoder is not working. So I did some things, and hopefully we got some success this time. So I want to point out two things real quickly before we go into this game. And maybe do some shout-outs, whatever. Maybe we'll go into experience afterwards as like a end of the show type thing. I would like to thank everybody who checked in on me Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's obviously been a rough couple of days, and it's going to be, with my godfather, my uncle passing away. And I really never bring personal life into the life of social media, the life of content creating. But when it impacts your life, it hits hard. There's only so much you can keep off social media. There's only so much that, you can hide a little bit. And that's why I said originally, look, I'm postponing / delaying my podcast episode, I would say premiere, because I had a family member pass away who was very close to me. And, sometimes the thing that goes above your sports media life is your personal life. So I wanted to thank everybody who was coming on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all these different places, and saying, basically sending their condolences. It's not something I do for attention, but I just wanted to let everybody know, and I wanted to express my gratitude for someone who's no longer with us. With that being said, I don't have a voice, not for that reason. I don't have a voice because I was screaming at the Giants game. I was screaming at the Knicks game. We're going to get to maybe some experiences, as I said, towards the end of the episode. But I just wanted to give you guys some clarifications as to why my voice is like 70% gone. I have water here. I only have probably half a glass left. So that's going to suit me through the whole show. I'm not taking any breaks or whatnot. We're just going to go full through with this. A fucking tie. And you know who I blame for this? And this is going to be the comedy part. I'm going to blame my former co-host of the Boys in Big Apple podcast, Sean. Because every single time we would talk, leading up to this, knowing we were going to the Knicks game, right? He goes, your game better not go into overtime. And if it goes into overtime, they better not tie. Well, guess what? We went in overtime, we tied. But in reality, let's get to the reality part. Fun stuff later. Man, this was one of the worst coached games this season. And this was so winnable. But the Giants kept finding ways to throw their opportunities in the fucking trash. I would say the units that get a pass are probably the defense, but they have some scrutiny as well, and I will go over that. But man, the Giants, I think the phrase of the entire game was playing not to lose. And we saw this last year. Saw this the year before with Joe Judge. I ain't going to sit here and say that Brian Daboll's Joe Judge. But it's two different things when you say coming into the year you're going to be aggressive and then you learn your personnel shit, which they were originally. Nothing's really changed since day one. And then you go conservative. So whether it's a Brian Daboll thing, a Mike Kafka thing, I don't know. Don't be concerned when I go on my rant and I don't have a voice. It's just, my sports fandom is kicking in. But I want to get to the team stats overall. And then I want to go into the offense first. So let's go into offensive stats. Daniel Jones was 25 for 31, 200 yards, 6.5 yards per throw, 1 touchdown, 4 sacks taken, a 31.8 QBR, and a rating of 104.3. And then Taylor Heineke, 27 for 41, 275 yards, 6.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 5 sacks, 27.8 QBR, and a 101.2 passer rating. Let's go to the running game. The Giants, Daniel Jones was 12 for 71. And Saquon Barkley was 18 for 63, 3.5 yards per carry, and a touchdown. That led to the Giants' running game having 30 carries, 134 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Rather surprised and a little disappointed that they didn't get Matt Breida or Gary Brightwell involved. Or maybe even Richie James. I mean, they got Curtis Samuel involved. Richie James is, a similar build. He's not of the similar, I would say, I can't say skill set because I would say it's alike. It's just Samuel is a way better player than Richie James is. I'm just throwing shit out there. Washington rushing game absolutely killed us. They never got into the end zone with it, but it eventually is kind of what led them down the field at certain times. Brian Robinson killed us, 21 carries, 96 yards. Antonio Gibson, 9 carries, 39 yards. Curtis Samuel, 3 carries, 23 yards. All of them were above 4.3 yards per carry. And then Williams and Taylor Heineke rushed combined 3 times for 7 yards. Let's go to the receiving game. Terry McLaurin killed us. I think it's the saying, something by 1,000 paper cuts, killing by 1,000 paper cuts, something like that. 8 receptions under 5 yards, a touchdown. Curtis Samuel, 6 receptions, 63 yards. John Dotson, 5 receptions, 54 yards. Antonio Gibson, 2 receptions, 20 yards. Logan Thomas, 3 receptions, 20 yards. And then Robinson had a reception or 2 for 15, and then Cam Sims as well. Darius Slay was the lead receiver for the Giants, 6 receptions for 190 yards, 5 receptions, 44 yards for Isaiah Hodgins, also a touchdown. Daniel Bellinger, 5 catches, 24 yards. Richie James, 3 catches, 20 yards, 5 catches, 18 yards for Barkley, and then Breida had a catch for 4. Fumble-wise, Daniel Jones fumbled. He lost it, and Jamin Davis recovered it. Taylor Heineke fumbled twice. One was recovered by his center, Tyler Larson. The other one was fumbled by O'Shane Zimenez and then recovered by Azeez Ojulari. So Heineke fumbles. O'Shane fumbles the recovery, but recovered by Azeez, the one who forced it. We'll talk about that on the defensive side. And then Brian Robinson fumbled out of bounds. Look at the Washington defensive stats. Overall, for the Giants and their O-line, I can't say it's bad, but it's only on the stat sheet, of course. And we still, in my opinion, half lost the game. 4 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss, and 4 quarterback hits. So Cameron Curl, Jamin Davis had a tackle for loss. Montez Sweat had a tackle for loss. Deron Payne had a very good day, probably the best defensive player on the field. He had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Bobby McCain had a tackle for a loss. Danny Johnson had a sack, a tackle for a loss, quarterback hit, and 2 pass deflections. Jonathan Allen had 1 tackle for a loss, a quarterback hit, and a sack. So that was that. Giants, they were very good for, some of the mistakes that they ended up making. You had Kayvon Thibodeau with a sack, quarterback hit, 2 quarterback hits actually, and a tackle for a loss. And it was a pivotal time. We talk about him, really coming in these clutch situations. It happened to be a clutch situation where he came in. Did we win the game? No. But that stop was very important because, what if he passes? What if he gets it complete, right? They're going to keep going. They're going to spike the football. But nice call by Wink. I think he stunted McLeod or did something to where Leno was going to the right and he was blocking McLeod. And then, he couldn't get to Tibbs in time because Tibbs just went, boom, went right at Heineke. I wish it would have went into the end zone or he would have lost the ball. But, hey, listen, you know what? Tibbs came in when it was needed. Julian Love had a tackle for a loss. He was all over the field, 12 tackles. Dexter Lawrence had a sack, a tackle for a loss, and a quarterback hit. Love him pushing through the interior. And he was double teamed too. Like, there was some pressure on the interior from the left side, I think it was. And then Dexter Lawrence is like fighting off two different guys. He just grabs him from behind. So Dexter Lawrence, great job. Kayvon Thibodeau, we already mentioned. Jihad Ward, 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits. He actually had the 1 forced fumble that was recovered by Tyler Larson. So Jihad Ward, I mean, he's having a career year right now. Leonard Williams had a quarterback hit. He left with a neck injury. I don't think there's anything on that because we haven't heard anything, unless they don't practice today, but they really should. Justin Ellis, he had his first NFL sack, well, full sack really, tackle for a loss, and a quarterback hit. That was all fundamental by Leonard Williams. But Justin Ellis, hey, listen, you can go 8 years without a quarterback sack. Tackle for a loss for O'Shane Ximines was actually pretty pivotal because I want to say it was an overtime as well, and they ran the football, and Ximines was right there. And they were like in the 40s, I would say early 40s, and then it moved back a little bit. And then they ran a screen and got cute, which Washington fans, I'd be a little concerned about Scott Turner. I'd be a little concerned in terms of that play call. And then the man of the hour, the elephant in the room, Azeez Ojulari, 2 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, and a sack. I don't know if I mentioned before. I'll say it again. 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, and 4 pass deflections. Team stats-wise, 20 first downs for the Giants, 25 for Washington, 9 passing first downs for the Giants, 13 for Washington, 10 rushing first downs, 11 for Washington. Each team had 1 first down from a penalty. Giants were 4 for 13 on third. Washington was 3 for 14. 4th down efficiency, they had 1 4th down made, and it was a pretty damn good play by Taylor Heineke. And Giants did not go for it all, so they were 0 for 0. Total plays-wise, the Giants ran 65, they ran 82. Total yards, 316 we had, and 411 for Washington. 14 for Big Blue. Total drives, and 13 for Washington. 4.9 yards per play for the New York Giants, and 5 for the football team. Football team commanders, I don't even know what the fuck to call them. 2 for 3 in the red zone, the Giants were, and Washington was 1 for 2. Giants had only 4 penalties for 34 yards, but you could tell it still impacted the game. And then 7 penalties for 56 yards for Washington. Obviously, fumbles lost led to turnovers. I don't know if I mentioned the Daniel Jones fumble, but I probably did when I said Daniel Jones fumbled, recovered by Jermaine Davis. I think Jonathan Allen was the one who forced that out, or Deron Payne, one of those big, fat defensive linemen. Time possession was totally lean to the Commanders' side at 41-11 compared to the Giants' 28-49. So I'm going to take a sip, try to regain my voice a little bit, and we're going to go on a little tangent here. With that being said, let's get right into it. Daniel Jones had an average game, nothing more or less in my opinion. He didn't do anything to totally put the team on his shoulders, and maybe at times, but it just was an average effort, average output. Saquon Barkley peaked 1,000 yards. Not too efficient. But you know what? Let's get into it. Let's get into my little tangent here. It might be 20 minutes. It might be 10 seconds. Who knows? I'm sick and tired of the Giants being a team that their identity really shouldn't be that. Because you get guys from Buffalo and Kansas City and Kafka and Dable, but they're going on a conservative philosophy. If you don't trust Daniel Jones, however you in the universe, Giants fans, feel that he's playing good, bad, and different. If you don't believe in the quarterback you're putting on the field week after week after week after week, you should not be playing him. If you don't believe in him and you're going to put the team on one person's back, being Saquon Barkley, you should not be playing him. Because it's cost this team the last few games in offense. It really has. And these tendencies and the trust, the 2 T's, 3 fucking T's. How about that? We got tie, we got tendency, we got trust. You know what? Let's add a 4th T. We're going to go tendencies, trust, tie, timeouts. Because that's all the bullshit that ended up costing us this game. Timeouts, tendencies, trust. What the fuck was the other T? Timeouts, tendencies, trust, tie. How about that? Okay, so you make it like a math equation. I just thought of that. I'm gonna run with that a little bit. I'm gonna run with that. Let's go to something I've been tracking. I wasn't really tracking it last week against the Cowboys. I was tracking it against the Lions, though. So you guys remember when I was ranting on Kafka and I was talking about the efficiency on first down, right? Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley had like 10 carries, 12 yards for 1.5 yards per carry. And Daniel Jones was like 7 for 14, 70-some-odd yards or 90-some, whatever. You guys can go back to the pod, refer back to that if you guys want the knowledge. So I decided to do that again because this game was pretty evident that they were going back on the same fucking train again. First down runs. And to credit, there were 2 runs that were really crucial. But guess what? None of them else were. I didn't mean to split up the word other, but you get the point. Now, obviously, some of these runs get you first downs and whatever, but these are first down runs overall. These are like, we're running on first down. Saquon Barkley, 15 carries, 53 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. Slightly better, but not efficient. I think Saquon Barkley had 4 yards per carry at most Sunday. Not efficient. This was the story, everybody, for 1, 2, maybe even 3 quarters. Because guess what, everyone? Guess what? Whether you agree time was on their side or not, and it's pretty contradictory. You may hear sirens in the background. I apologize. It was pretty contradictory because remember last week, they ran it with like 5 minutes to go in the game, and they were losing. They were fucking losing. Whether they were getting good, bad, and different runs. So it was the tale of 2 different things. You go in the first half, right, towards the field goal that we made at the end of the half. They were running the ball like we had 15 minutes to play. And yes, it worked for like 1 or 2 runs. But after that 21-yard run that Barkley broke out for, what'd they do? They stopped us for 4 fucking yards. 4 yards in the backfield. So we had to, once again, with the horrible timeout management that Brian Daboll has acquired, we had to pivot ourselves in second down, and we had to force Daniel Jones to throw. It's very, very odd what they're doing, and it's not really, I guess you could say fluid is a word, but it's not really consistent either. Because you talk about that, right? In overtime, what did they do? All first downs, they passed. Maybe there was 1 or 2 runs, but that was designed. I wouldn't say it was designed, but it was Daniel Jones coming out of the pocket. So, it's weird. It really is weird. The Giants, and you can sit here and say to me, the Giants don't have personnel to sit here and win by 2 scores. I'm going to sit here and tell you that's bullshit. While it does impact them a ton, the way the coaching staff closes in the margin of error is completely frightening. Because you have that first half, right? You have the end of the first half. Then you have, what the fuck was that 13-20 drive? I think it was the drive that we punted. And then they went downfield and scored and made it 20. So obviously, yeah, you had the Slayton catch, first down, all that. And then obviously you get the stupid taunting penalty, which I'll get to Feliciano in a little bit. So you had that. And then they go complacent. It's like they're already in field goal range. When they're not. They were past the 50. You have the penalty. It moves you back. And they're like, that's okay. We're going to run down clock anyway. I am sick and tired of the conservative philosophy from this team, whether it's this year or years past. There's no aggressiveness. You'd rather go down fighting than just sit there, wave the white flag of complacency. And I think at the end of the day, there's a saying that sticks to me and has stuck to me for a while. Don't punch somebody in the face if you don't expect to get punched back. Or at least if you don't want to get punched back. Because there's two outcomes. You can either punch somebody in the face and knock them out, or you can punch somebody in the face, they punch you in the face next. So, unfortunately, it seems as if the Giants aren't ready to be up to that level. Talent and coaching imposed, which is terrible. Now, I've gone on a tangent for the past few minutes even, without giving you Daniel Jones stats on first down. 12 for 15, 146 yards, 9.7 yards per attempt, and 12.2 yards per completion. Everyone's probably saying, look, Alex, you need to take that 55-yarder away. That was a chunk play. Okay, let's take it away. His completion percentage was at 80 with that 12 for 15. Well, you move it back to that one play, you move the one play out. 11 for 14, that's a 78% completion percentage. That is very fucking good. However you want to phrase it, right? A few weeks ago, when I was talking about the Lions game, he was only at 50 and I was still making the argument. He was 50% completion on first down. Well, he's gotten better, kind of. So, if you also take that Slayton throw out, you have 91 yards, and you have 6.5 yards per attempt. That's about average. But you look at the gains they had, right? Either way, you take that 55 out or not. 8, 2, 55, 8, 12, 3, 11, 7, 10, 12, 4, 14. Let's see how many of those make into first downs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 15 passing attempts, 6 of the 12 completions equaled first downs. Let's do this now. Let's go into how many of those would set you up for a second and medium, second and short. 1, 2, 3. About 3. Okay. Let's I'm not going to beat around the bush any longer. Only 3 of the 15 pass attempts, 3 of the 12 completions would have set you up for a second and long. Mike Kafka, that should tell you that Daniel Jones is efficient on first down when you let him throw the ball. And even if it's not 10 yards, if you design it correctly, you could get a second and short, a second and medium, and then run Saquon Barkley. Wow. It's like you're doing 2 things at the same time. You're making Jones more efficient, you're making Barkley more efficient, and you're giving him a rest on his legs. Wow. It's not that hard. It really isn't. So, in terms of that, that's why I'm pissed. That's why I'm pissed at this coaching staff. And it's right for the Giants fan base to criticize it. And I go back to this. Luka last year on Boys in the Big Apple, he tore into Salah when they got crushed by the Patriots. He tore into them earlier this year when they lost to the Ravens. Being critical early. Now, you could argue overcritical, undercritical, whatever. I think the Giants fans should be a little more critical and ease out of this honeymoon. Because as much as it is a rebuild, I don't want to be collapsing. No. Brian Daboll and his coaching staff have built up a foundation of compliments and good production. Let's not fucking let's not have the tidal wave fucking collapse the sandcastle here. Very weird. I just thought of that on the spot. But let's not do that. Because if you do that, we're going into next year thinking, do we have a head coach? And I understand this. With Anthony Richardson declaring for the draft and all these different guys, the Giants probably want to put themselves in a position, not tanking, I'm not talking about that, but they want to be in a position to select a quarterback. And they want their own guy, which is very understandable. At the same time, going back to the point I reiterated in the beginning, if you don't believe in Daniel Jones and if you believe Tyrod Taylor's skill set will be able to make you win football games, then you should play Tyrod Taylor. Would I like it? No. But if you have more trust in Tyrod Taylor than Daniel Jones, what the fuck am I going to say? What am I going to do? What am I going to impact the fucking thing? So, it's just very odd. It really is. And people were talking about this clip that, Brian Dable said, well, they made better play calls than us and they executed better than us. I don't think that's a shot at Kafka. I really don't. Maybe it is, but it's standard coach talk. It really is. So, I'm pissed. The Giants have a few good teams in the next few weeks. The Vikings have a bad defense, but I still think we're going to lose that game. The Giants are going to be under the lights Sunday night primetime against a football team in a critical game because we need to beat them. A lot of things need to go right for them. This game in Detroit, those are two games they decided to throw in the trash and lose. I think this is a loss, but at the end of the day, it is a tie. So you throw those two games out, and now you have to compensate for that when it comes to trying to make the playoffs. You have to compensate for that. Colts, I think is a win. What other win you have on the schedule? Eagles, it's going to be really tough. I mean, they're probably a little bit of a better run defense now that Jordan Davis is back, now that some of these other guys are back. And I said a few weeks ago, I really didn't fear Sue and, what's the other D tackle they picked up? They picked up another defensive tackle, but they picked up Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph. They picked up those two guys. So they have a rotation of a couple of good defensive linemen. But the way the offensive line is looking, the way they like to overuse the run game, I mean, we have to fear a little bit next week. And you know what? With Giant fans slowly easing out of the feeling of, I don't know about this team. My life, unfortunately, might fill up with Eagle fans this week. Not something I'm looking forward to at all. At all. But if you want to talk about the wide receiver core for 2 seconds, Darius Slayton with a key drop pass. As far as that one goes, people are critiquing Jones for it. In my opinion, if you have two hands on it, you should catch it. That was a catchable ball. He should have went like this and brung it down. But you'll have your oh shit moments and your wow, that was great moments with Slayton. That's just the type of player he is. And it is a testament to the player he is. It's also a testament to the fact that the Giants need more wide receivers. They need more talented guys. Slayton can't be 100% dependent on. It's just been a fact. Not that he shouldn't get a second contract. I still am of that belief. Isaiah Hodgins, I mean, I think this kid could be the 4th wide receiver next year. I'm going to be honest with you. Number 1 or 2? No. But he's got some solid skills. I mean, he's got that taller build. He's got a little speed, too. He's got a little bit of speed. He's got that push in him. So, Hodgins looks pretty good. As far as the blocking, wasn't great. I mean, the offensive line, I don't really know what happened in terms of the tackles. I thought Evan Neal didn't do bad. It's that fucking interior, man. Glowinski got beat on one of the first sacks of the game by Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. He's just so under fucking sized, and he doesn't even make up for it with his technique and all that. He, in my opinion, and I've seen more Giants fans get on the train with this, he might need to be benched once Bredesen comes back. And I'm not fucking kidding around anymore. Once Bredesen comes back, once Azudu comes back, you might need to change up the line a little bit for the final time this season. Of course, barring injury. But in my opinion, I've talked to Giant fans about this, especially, on Sunday. But I was speaking to a few. most of the guys I talk to, their dream line is Thomas, Azudu, Gates, Lewinsky, and Neal. I don't know how Gates played yesterday. Personally, if you want my opinion, I never have really been a fan of him at left guard. I've always been a fan of him at center. And, tackle obviously was a few years ago. Guard was a few years ago. So, Feliciano, PFF is so far up his ass that they're living in his intestines. Because I just don't get why he got an 82 grade. It's literally backwards. It's literally backwards. Evan Neal got like a 53. That's why you don't trust PFF, because they say they study every single stat. No, they fucking don't. They reference, and this is a little argument, by the way. This goes back to something that I saw on Twitter a few weeks ago. And Zach Wilson, he had an okay game. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. Okay game against Buffalo. And Zach Wilson had a really bad game against the Falcons last year. But for some reason, they gave him a better grade against the Falcons last year than the Bills this year. And then all Sam Munson, that PFF scumbag, kept referring to in his argument with a couple of Jet fans was the stat sheet. You clearly don't watch the film if you're saying the stat sheet 100 times over. Ooh, I gotta take another sip and we're gonna talk about this defense. And let's get into it. I'm going to go over the negative first. There's really three negatives that I'm going to point out. The missed tackles in the secondary, that was probably the worst of the season. Because those missed tackles led to 2 touchdowns. And those were the 2 touchdowns they put up. The Terry McLaurin touchdown, missed tackle by Fabian Moreau. I'm not going to sit here and defend Fabian Moreau for the way he played. The whole secondary, in a pinch, if you want to look into the specifics, I don't think they played well at all. I really don't. There were some plays, they made some nice plays and whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't think they played well. I really don't. And then you had the Zion Gilbert missed tackle on Jahad Knotson, who's a fucking lightning bolt. And then Nick McLeod, he got spun like this is Madden 24. That was pretty insane, but this had to be one of our worst tackling games ever. With this coaching staff overall. Just wasn't a good game. And something I'll hint to before I get to something else, running game is still unsolvable. Honestly, at this point, I don't blame Wink Martindale. I really don't. I think it's all down to personnel. You could obviously factor in Tate Crowder and all these different guys that could fill that position, Landon Collins maybe. But at the end of the day, the Giants need some very, 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 very massive upgrades at linebacker. You can keep McFadden. Unfortunately, McFadden isn't necessarily much of a block disengager, but he plays well. He's on the field. Sometimes you don't know he's on the field, but sometimes that'd be a good thing. Sometimes that can actually be a bad thing as well. So the running game is still unsolvable. We're going to get some massive competition next week with the Eagles. And then we'll face the Commanders again after that. So try to come up with a game plan. Maybe. Let's go to a hot topic before we get to the good stuff. Rodarius Williams and Dane Belton did not play as well as Tate Crowder. I'm kind of shocked that Rodarius Williams did not play. And if you want my honest opinion, that will be a critique of mine and Wink Martindale, probably the only one. Now, I'm going to sit here and say that I'm not appreciative of any player going out on social media and outing their coaching staff. No, absolutely not. Because we can sit here and create negatives every single fucking time. Well, they lost this game, this, that, and the other thing, whatever. But at the same time, they're giving you a chance. This is a coaching staff that looks competent with some miscues. They're giving you a chance. So, while Rodarius Williams, in my opinion, should have played over a guy like Zion Gilbert, who's a UDFA out of FAU, small school, I'm not for just going out and outing people on social media. I'm done with this. That's 14-year-old, 13-year-old shit. Subliminal messages. I'm done with that. This is the social media age, and a lot of players want out that way. I'm not saying Rodarius Williams is a bad guy, but Darius Slayton didn't do that, right? he was on the bench for a while. For like 3 weeks, he was on the bench. And even week 4, he wasn't that involved. But guess what happened? Got his opportunity, and he's a full-blown part of the offense. Dane Belton did not play. Did he say anything? No. He didn't. I'm actually surprised he didn't play. I thought he would have been a little helpful, but he did not play one snap. So either he is dealing with an injury and is still active, or they feel he's not ready to be on the field as much as the other guys. Jason Pinnock was playing a ton of safety. Darnay Holmes was inactive with a shoulder, which I thought he got benched at first, but then I'm like, was he on the injury report this week? And I checked, and he was, with shoulder injury. We'll go over one more name before we go to the good stuff. That's Tate Crowder. He on social media put, free me. I forget what the other quote is. Free me something. I'm not a fan of that. You can sit here and once again, like Rodarius Williams, and argue whether this guy should be on the field or not instead of Jalen Smith or Mike McFadden, whatever, right? But at the same time, I don't agree with outing your coaching staff on social media. I also don't agree that you should be doing any type of complaining. Why do you ask? Because Tate Crowder is invisible on the field when he gets in. He cannot cover a running back to save his life. And as far as the run game goes, he's washed. He gets washed away. He gets washed away. Like the fucking little paper boat in the sewer in fucking, what's that movie? It. He gets washed away, and you don't see him again. Except there's no clown that comes up with the boat. So, improve your game. And it's not like you're Odell Beckham or Jalen Ramsey or these guys. They have accomplished resumes. Tate Crowder, I'm sorry, you don't. You're Mr. Irrelevant. And I'm not going to say you're be a coaching staff homer because you could mix in Tate Crowder a little bit more. But that first half of the season for Tate Crowder was not one where you're going to say we're going to play him the rest of the year. It just wasn't that impression that, I was getting. To go with the positive, the pass rush was there. For the first time in how many games? Since the Texans game, the Giants got home. And they forced 2 fumbles. I want to say it was 3, but it was 2 in real time, right? They got the forced fumble by Jihad Ward, and they also got the forced fumble by Azeez Ojulari, which ended up being a Giants turnover. And that put them in the end zone, by the way. I forgot to even recap in the offense that 1 touchdown was scored because of the fumble. And, it could have very well just been 3, and then we would talk about a loss right now. But Azeez Ojulari is a game changer on the field in terms of this team. Now, other teams, maybe, but I talked about in the preview how getting Azeez back would put less attention on Kayvon. And Kayvon's still a force to be reckoned with. I'm still of that belief. But you notice that mixing and matching, Wink Martindale could do a couple of different things. Obviously, Azeez got, and this, they were getting to, I think Leno had a pretty bad game in my personal opinion, because the sack off of Thibodeau, meaning Thibodeau getting the sack on Heineke, that was on Leno. The forced fumble by Jihad Ward, I think that was on him. I think that the forced fumble from Azeez was on him. So overall, they were going through their power tackle. But it's not like Sam Cosmi wasn't beat a few times and Heineke was just getting away. It's great just to look at that game and say, wow, man, we have a pass rush. So, and this is the first game that those 4, Dex, Leo, Kayvon, and Azeez have been on the field. This is the first game ever that they've been on the field at the same time. Azeez was suffering through shit in camp. Leo had the injury in the preseason. Kayvon had the knee. And then they, first few weeks they had Azeez, but they didn't have Leo. It was just a mixture of injuries, but shout out to the pass rush, right? Shout out to the pass rush. Leonard Williams didn't necessarily get a sack, but hey, he made the way. He paved the way, really, for Justin Ellis to get his first full sack in the NFL. So, sometimes you don't have to send the blitz. And the blitz got there at times, yeah. But imagine having a fearful, semi-fearful front four, and then you bring the blitz. And then you have good corners. Wow. What a game changer. Giants were manageable with personnel and good wide receivers from Washington. Though I ripped on the corners, I do want to say, overall, that the corners did better than expected because they were not, I would say, beat 100% of the time. And the reason why I think we look at this is two things. Because the running game was so poor in terms of the defense. The defensive running game was bad. They kept running it on us. We had no answer for it. And, in a way, the running game doesn't equal 30 points. Doesn't equal 40 points. 2025 is, in my opinion, in the NFL, max of what you get out of the running game now. And it's sometimes, they started to learn some of the, I would say the routines and the repertoires of Taylor Heineke. Like he would go, to McLaurin sometimes, right? And then pass would be knocked out of the hands. We almost had an interception by Julian Love. Almost had a pick by Fabian Moreau. So I'm not going to sit here and take away, I'm not going to act like the secondary didn't play awful in terms of tackling. Because I think that was worse than the coverage itself. I think tackling was worse than the coverage. But overall, they played okay. I know people are getting on Fabian Moreau a little bit. I mean, he's a corner too. He's not a corner one. He's a corner two. But if we didn't have him on the field and we had Adoree and then it was Zion Gilbert and Nick McLeod, I think we'd all shit our pants. So when Adoree comes back, Moreau will be a little bit better. As far as Gilbert goes, I don't think he should have been even playing in that spot. At the end of the day, you do have to realize he's a UDFA. And then McLeod, he's a backup. He is a backup. He had some nice plays, and he had some very difficult plays in terms of output. Stock up, stock down, and then snap count. Tibbs, Aziz, Jihad Ward, Dexter Lawrence, Justin Ellis, and Leonard Williams definitely get it for me. I can't really say anyone else. Maybe Isaiah Hodgins and Daniel Bellinger as well. Evan Neal too. For the stock up, stock down, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, John Feliciano, Mark Lewinsky, Fabian Moreau, Nick McLeod, Zion Gilbert, and Jalen Smith. And then we go to the infamous snap counts. So the snap counts we have here. Also some factoids. PFF stats, they tend to overrate pressures and overmeasure them, along with sacks too. So, we'll see when it comes on different sites, because different sites will track it differently. But anyway, Mark Lewinsky allowed 3 pressures and gave up 2 sacks. Nick Gates allowed 2 pressures. Thomas allowed a sack and a pressure as well. I find it really weird that Feliciano didn't give up a sack. Feliciano must have some money in the bank to be paying these assholes to really just make a name for him, I guess. Pressures defensively, Azeez Ojulari with 7 and a sack. That's really good, coming off an injury. Thibodeau with 4 and a sack. Dexter Lawrence, 5 and a sack. Nick McLeod gave up 6 targets, 3 receptions. Fabian Moreau gave up 6 receptions. 5 targets, 6 receptions. Wow, I can't even talk. We're 40 minutes in, and I'm getting to that point. Was targeted 6 times, gave up 5 receptions, 1 touchdown. Zion Gilbert gave up 6 receptions on 7 targets, 1 touchdown. So, finally, got it out. Snap counts, let's get to that. Daniel Jones, John Feliciano, basically the whole line, and Jones played 100%. Daniel Bellinger missed only 2 snaps in the game. That's pretty fucking good. 97% Darius Slayton, 92%. Barkley, 88%. Isaiah Hodgins, 80%. 52% from Richie James. And you know what? Someone I didn't even point out on offense, and he wasn't necessarily a receiving factor because he wasn't getting any targets. Nick Van Ed. I'm surprised they cut Tanner Hudson. Lawrence Cager was inactive, so I guess for right now they have 4 tight ends on the roster, and maybe they'll make a move at some point to get an extra guy on, because I don't think they'll keep 4 tight ends. Maybe they'll just keep Myrick as the traditional fullback. but he earned 45% of the snaps, more than Myrick, who had 12%. Marcus Johnson, 15%, 14% for Matt Breida. Tyree Phillips is the extra tackle, 3%, and David Sills, 2%, which was 1 snap. And then you look at the defense. Julian Love played 85 snaps, 100%. Nick McLeod, 100%. Fabian Rowe, 100%. 93% for Jason Pinnock. 91% for Dexter Lawrence, 87% for Tibbs, Jalen Smith, 74%, Micah McFadden, 67%, Zion Gilbert, 66%, 58% for Azeez Ojulari, 42% for O'Shane Ximines, 41% for Leonard Williams, 35% for Jihad Ward, 33% for Tony Jefferson and Henry Mondo, 29% for Justin Ellis, 26% for Cordell Flott. Vernon Butler also was in the game. I wonder what his impact was like. 14%. And Timon Fox, he was in there early. 11%. So there's that. Real quick, just wanted to shout out because I promised you guys like a bit of a fun kind of segment at the end. Shout out to the Talking Giants guys. They host really good tailgates. I think that's really an underestimation. But their tailgates are always fire. A lot of people come. I thought there was a lot of people more, to the Sunday tailgate than last year against the Eagles. It was warmer, but also at the same time, it was a different setting. It was in December. They do a good job. Credits to Bobby, Justin, Candlewick Diner, Danny, Snacks, and also shout out to the people who came and people I met again. Cranky Fan, Football Grump, Johnny Five from Twitter, Dable arriving from Twitter. All these different guys, they're awesome, man. They're awesome. The Giants content community, as very baffled as they can be amongst each other, we support our own. We support our own. Obviously, loyal supporter Matt Riley was there and came to sit with us, even in the second half. Even when we were stressing over the tie, just wanted to shout them out. As far as some of what happened yesterday, I'll just go through my whole routine. Well, yesterday, because I'm recording on a Monday, but you guys know it's Sunday. Got up at 6. I only got 3 hours of sleep. Got up at 6. Left the house at like 6:30. I think that might have been the latest, but got on the train around 6:50. Got on the end train, took it to Times Square. Got into Port Authority just about 5 minutes before the bus showed up. So that was like really, really cutting it close. Then we showed up in the parking lot probably around 8, 8:10, 8:15. And they were already there partying, doing whatever. Then we got in, went to the shop a little bit, and then went to our seats, went to the game, had some fun, watched a fucking tie. Then, the New Jersey Transit's something different, man. We had an original miscommunication between me and my brother because he was like, okay, we'll take the train. So I thought he meant the train going from MetLife to Secaucus to Penn Station. And first we were actually going to take the Uber to the East Rutherford train station, which is actually something different, and take that straight to the city because that's something you could do. So time was cutting very close. And we're like, fuck, okay? So there's a huge-ass fucking line for this train that gets back to Secaucus. It goes back to Penn Station. So we were worried. We're like, oh, fucking shit. They're not going to take us. So the guy actually gave us some good advice. He's like, the line's usually longer. You're going to be good. So we get that. Then what else happens? What else happens that I have to include? So we do that, go to Secaucus. We don't move for like 5 minutes because someone was like shutting the doors or something, holding the doors. And of course, New Jersey Transit, not like the MTA. MTA will just scream at you. New Jersey Transit, being the weirdos they are, on the intercom, stop holding the doors. We will get the police down here. I'm like, what the fuck are you going to do? So anyway, we get moving, get into Penn Station, probably around the 6:05 hour-ish. And then we had to purchase the tickets and didn't realize that Luca didn't purchase the tickets until until we got on the train heading back to Penn Station. So that was fun. Also for the fact that we didn't have service, so it had to be really last minute. And then the Ticketmaster / TickPick wasn't working for like 5 minutes. Then we got in, and then we got to our seats. Had a fun time. Had a fun time screaming at Cleveland fans who claimed they're New Yorkers, and called them transplants a couple of times. Obviously the Knicks played some sloppy basketball against the Cleveland Cavaliers and Spida. But with that being said, at the end of the game, because I was so happy and riled, I'm like, go back to Cleveland in the middle of fucking nowhere. That was fun. But after that, we went to an Irish restaurant called The Perfect Pint, watched some Sunday Night Football, and, that was my day. So just wanted to fill you guys in on that. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool.